Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. It means the world to me. Thank you very, very much. And today we have a fellow podcaster as well as actor on the show. And of course, there some of you may know her already. It's one broke actress herself, Miss Sam Valentine, and let's take a moment to introduce her and her work. So credit to IMDb for this intro, by the way. Sam is an actress from the Midwest of the US with roots in Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Illinois. She graduated from Missouri State University with a degree in theatre and mass media before then traveling to LA to pursue her acting career. For those listening in from the US, she has also been heard in voiceovers, seen in commercials, booked several roles in TV as well. Followed, which has been her biggest hit to date, which won her a Burbank Film Festival Best Actress nomination and became the #1 movie in the US box office for several weeks. Her other credits include Borscht Legacy for Amazon and Hulu's The Orville. And of course, as I say, Sam's main body of work comes from not only being an actress, but it's her podcast, One Broke Actress, available wherever you get your shows, a show dedicated to documenting the real-life tasks and tribulations of being a working actor in the 21st century. For exclusive content, subscribe to her podcast to receive more bonus episodes for patrons only, and also check out her Instagram and her website. Links to both of them are down below in the description. So, without further ado, hello, Sam.
Hi, thanks for having me, Oliver. We had quite a time getting this on the schedule, but I really appreciate you working with me.
Oh, no, no, no. No, I appreciate your time, Sam. I know you're incredibly busy right now, so the time that we have is just amazing. So thank you for being here. It's an honor. So we start with every guest at the beginning. So in your case, Sam, where did it come from, the love of acting?
God, I wish I could pinpoint a moment in which I was like, this is for me. I've always loved it. It's always been the only thing. I remember we had a day at school in elementary school where we dressed up as what we wanted to be when we grew up, but I didn't know how to dress up as an actor because they just looked like people. And so I dressed up as like a director one time and I wore like a black beret and had a little megaphone thing as though I was like Francis Ford Coppola or something. But it's always been acting. And the older I got, I think my parents probably hoped that I would grow out of it. But luckily for them, it never went away. And it was always just in the back of my mind. And it was always the thing, even though I had no exposure to anyone doing it professionally. The closest I got was reading articles in the newspaper or the USA Today because we barely had the internet. And I remember watching, there was a show called Tool Time that was very popular in the Midwest. And Tim Allen was on it with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. And at the end of the episode, they would play bloopers. And I loved the bloopers because it showed like these people were having a really good time and they were at work. And I thought, oh, you can do that for a job? I didn't know that that was like a job. So the older I got, the more conviction I had until I entered school and didn't get accepted into a theater program and thought, okay, well, fine, I'll just do something else, like teach acting then. I must be just in the world of it. And I took all the acting classes and then I realized I had to take teaching classes and I didn't want anything to do with that process. So once I made that choice, it was very clear to me exactly what to do and where to go. And that was 2010, 2011 when I graduated, and LA was the place to go. It's different now. I think that acting is not necessarily in a specific market anymore. In fact, there's probably more productions going on outside of LA right now than there are inside of LA, but this was the hub. So I moved here and it's been an uphill climb ever since. I wish I could say it was off to the races, but yeah, the struggle is real, and I found a place to talk about it instead.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think your story, I think, we see it in quite a lot of like films and stuff. Like we moved to LA, we want to
Mhm.
be the actress, we might be I think because you've seen The Big Bang Theory, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I think Penny in one episode Penny goes, "I'll be a waitress for 6 months, then become a movie star or something," and that's
Yes.
like the the image that you move to LA and that's where to go. But what's it really like? What's it like moving to LA for the first time and then pursuing this thing?
In 2011, when I moved to LA, it was a whole different world than it is now. Then it was very much a world for um, think of things like the CW and Gossip Girl were at the tip of everyone's tongue. It was a very big time for that.
Yeah.
Even the people on network television were beautiful people. It was very much the proliferation of beautiful movie stars and people and pop stars and all of those things. And I remember I was a server at a bar where Paris Hilton came in and was like ordering vodka shots, and the Real Housewives were there. And it was like I was like, oh, this is Hollywood. Now I think it's a totally different beast. I think it's not about that culture anymore. It's about who's worth a lot of money, which it's always been money, but who's worth a lot of money to companies. It has nothing to do with looks. It has to do with familiarity. And the long game is so much more important than I think it ever has been because the money has shifted. But I came here with every possible dream you could possibly imagine that was stereotypical. I was just a girl from the Midwest. I was prom queen. I moved to LA, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna be like, I have a 5-year plan, and it's gonna be just a short period of time. Like, trust me, I'm special. And I'm a hard worker, and I am very, very good at what I do. And I'm not special in this town. Everyone who comes here to work their ass off is special. Therefore, nobody's special. So you have to figure out who you are in the process, which I thought that I would just be whoever Hollywood told me to be. And that didn't work. So yeah, it's almost like a big therapy session if you choose to stay here, like figuring out who you are and how you are a piece of the puzzle and not the main thing. It's very ego driven, I think, for a lot of us when we start this business. And sure, we want to be artists and make art, but it's about us, you know, and the more you're in it, the more you realize that there's so many working pieces beyond an actor that make a play, a film, a TV show, any project
Absolutely.
work. And acting is one of 1,000 pieces.
Yeah, and I think that's something you talked about extensively on your own podcast. By the way, as I said in the intro, it's called One Broke Actress, and because I love your podcast. By the way, it's a really, really in-depth, insightful way of looking at this thing, and particularly from across the pond. You know, hearing how the business works on the other side of the world. You know, the similarities, the differences, etc. But you know, there's one thing that you talk about a lot is that there's more to life than just being an actor. And like you just said there, there are so many more things that we can get involved in. So what else can actors, when they're not acting, get involved in?
If you were to tell me when I first decided that acting was my job that I needed to have a full life, I would say, oh, for sure, yeah. But mostly the career. And I think that's really easy to say when you're 18, 20, 24, that like your job is what's going to define you and everything else will come later. And I remember I had conversations with friends in their late 20s who were getting married, but their career didn't look like they thought it was going to by the time they were doing these adult steps. And it's just, there's no rhyme or reason to how this business works. And I wish there was, because if there was, my podcast would be a lot more popular and I would be making a lot more money. But there's so much to it. And anyone in any profession who makes their job their whole being at some point either completely burns out or comes home to an empty house. That house might be full of people, but it's devoid of love or emotion or connection or anything of that nature. And I realized not too long ago that if I don't have anyone to come home to at the end of the day, if I don't have a happy life to wake up to, the booking, the filming, the auditioning, the job is such a small percentage of, let's say I live to be 100 years old. Those days versus the days that I'm not on set or I'm not auditioning and working are vastly outnumbered by the days of not doing that. So those days should matter just as much. And I think anyone who is an artist only experiences the world better as a person. I don't think anybody is a better artist because they've only dedicated their life to the craft. And I think if anyone tells you that, they're probably trying to sell you a class.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I'm actually very curious on your end
Mm.
from the European perspective, because London is known as the place where like artists grow, and like we take a lot of actors for
Yeah,
our productions from there. And I think
yeah,
of every big HBO production that has half the cast, even though they're in mythical times, are British.
yeah,
So
yeah.
do you feel like it's more pushed on you guys to have the perfect training, the perfect methods, the perfect acting versus being a human?
Yeah, I think, yeah, no, that's a very good question. I think, yeah, I mean, just going off what you say on like, there and of course on your other episodes, yeah, London is like LA in terms of actor town, in terms of like this, there's this construct, which is if you want to make it in this thing, you've got to move to London, you've got to get there. Just like, yeah, we know it's expensive. We know you'll be living without food for maybe weeks on weeks at a time, not be able to afford water or central heating. But no, this is what you got to do. You've got to be an actor. You've got to get to London. And of course, that is bullshit, and, it's the thing like you say there. It's like every big thing. There's an acting class around every corner. Like if you go like in London and everything, and there's always opportunities. You go in bars and restaurants. You ask three or four of the waiting staff. Oh, so what do you do? It's like, well, I'm trying to be an actor. Or I'm trying to be a musician. It's full of these people. And if anyone in that position right now, keep going, keep going. By goodness sake, do not give up. But yeah, no, it's very, very similar to America. It's like, or LA in particular, it's like that apparently is the way you have to go, because that's where like the Matrix tells you to go to be a successful person. And of course, that's not true. There are so many more ways in which you can do it, and yeah, so it's very similar to that. And personally, one of my favorite quotes of yourself. I'm not sure if it was yourself or your guest in this episode, but. You talked about the day-to-day life of an actor, just being grateful for every opportunity. You may not be on set right now or in a theater, but at least you're grateful and you're happy where you are right now. And my favorite quote of yours is, everything else is icing on the motherfucking cake. And I just thought that was perfect, because it was like you're not subscribing to. I think this is another one as well. You're not subscribing to the rat race of acting that looks like cubicles of a 9 to 5. Just allow it to be successful and get out of the race. So, and I think that was
Mm.
great. So how?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oliver, you're making me sound so good. Thank you so much. Sometimes I turn on a microphone and talk, and I just have no idea what comes out.
No, you're great, Sam. You're great. But just very, very quickly, actually, there's a phrase that you guys have over there in the States. It's called pilot season. What is
Mhm.
that?
So, pilot season was when all of the networks, and that's your most commonly ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. I'm probably forgetting ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. It's like it was all of the uh, cable, not cable networks. So all of
Right.
the across the board networks. They would say, take scripts from writers. They would get accepted as, we will produce the first episode of this, and then we're going to cast it, and then we're going to test it with a bunch of test groups where a bunch of people watch the show and get feedback on it, and the network does it, and we'll maybe air it and see how people like it. And those shows are all produced, they're cast. It's a big process, because if you get cast in a pilot, there's potential that you might go on to film a whole season. Or if you're in the Theory, like the potential is always there to film the next big show in pilot season.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was rudely and amazingly interrupted by streaming services when they came in and they said, okay, we're going to maybe put on a new show in June. And by the way, you're cleared straight to series, which means you don't have to make an initial episode and test it. We believe in the showrunner. We believe in the show. We believe in the people working on it.
Wow.
And so here's the budget to make the show. And that more often than not is what you're seeing, because pilots were expensive.
Mm,
I never booked a pilot. I auditioned for them, but I never booked one. And the process of booking one was essentially filling out an entire cast. So you had to have a great casting director with great connections. Actors would run around town auditioning for lots of different shows during pilot season, often leads. And then you would cast like the periphery smaller roles. They would build entire sets. They would put together the entire crew. And then you would film an initial episode, and then you would just wait. and see what happens.
Mm.
And there was a lot of waiting. And so the investment in those is so high, and most of them never got seen. There's rows and rows and rows in every single, I don't know if they keep them in a warehouse now or if they're on a cloud somewhere, but there are so many shows you've never seen, but that were fully shot, fully produced, fully edited, and never made it to air. And
Ouch.
that is an expensive process. So
Mm.
now, instead of doing that, they can take a whole show and make 8 episodes of it for HBO, for Netflix, for Peacock, whatever. And that's that. And that is equivalent now, I'd say, to like the pilots we're doing.
Mm.
It's changed the way we pay people. It's changed the way actors make money. It's changed. We used to have pretty solid seasons where you would have pilot season was probably the end of December-ish before the holidays till, and then it would break until after typically like Sundance was over, the film festival,
Yeah, Sundance. Yeah.
which was in Utah. Now it's moving to Colorado, which is cool. And then it would take, and then from the end of Sundance, which is like mid to late January until like February, March-ish, typically they would fill out the main cast. April, they would probably fill out smaller roles and shoot. May, they would wrap things up. And then June, everyone would just wait.
Mm.
Um, and so it's a really interesting time that we're not doing that anymore. And then indie movies would be shot over the summer. And then people would go into episodic season starting in September. And that's not how it works anymore. We don't have a schedule. It's so random.
Yeah.
Things are shot short-lived. Shows have maybe 8 to 10 episodes, if you're lucky. And then randomly we'll get a show like The Pit that I believe has 14, 15 episodes on HBO.
Mm.
And that's actually shot in LA, which is amazing. And they have tons of new actors in every episode. So everybody watch that show, please. I would like it to get more seasons. It's also really good. But that doesn't exist anymore. So now it's all random. It's all fly by the seat of your pants. And it's changed the game a lot for everyone in this business because we never know when we're supposed to be quote unquote on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, we say a big thank you to Netflix and Amazon Prime for that. But no, but it's an interesting area because you talk a lot about that again on your show, and in recent times we've had the SAG strikes, which really threw a massive spanner in the works recently, and thankfully I think we're on the tail end of that now. We're free of that. But yeah, what was it like through that time where you would literally you couldn't get a job as an actor unless you're in the so-called 1%? How was that time in LA? Just where you woke up every day thinking, what the hell is going to happen?
I've had a very, very weird couple of years because COVID was hard,
Yeah,
obviously, for all of us for various reasons. It was very dark. It was very sad.
yeah,
But it also got me to focus and realize what I want to do with my time while I have it.
yeah.
And some days felt like hell and some days felt like a gift. And I learned a lot in that period. I came out of it into 2021 I signed with my first amazing theatrical agent. I signed with a new commercial agent. And then 2021 was the busiest year of my acting career. I was off to the races and I thought, this is how it's going to be. And then 2022, everything slowed down and I thought I broke whatever I had. I thought I had the thing and then I dropped it and I broke it. The things we tell ourselves. And then 2023, we went on strike, but I had 2 national commercials airing from 2023 into 2024. So I actually made the most money I've ever made in those 2 years from those 2 commercials airing. It doesn't come in one check. It comes like little tiny bits over time. And then you look back at the year at your taxes and you're like, whoa, that I made good money. I'm glad that, look, okay, I have a lot of it saved. I'm so glad I have that. But when everyone else was, especially people who relied on extra work and things like that on a daily grind to keep their health insurance, to keep working, I didn't have that because I've been in LA for 14 years and only one of them was very viable. And out of that time, I had to figure out how I made money outside of that. So I have a lot of income streams. So I wasn't deeply affected by the strike in that particular moment.
Good.
I actually had some beautiful moments in the strike where I feel like I watched a lot of actors look outside of themselves and see the gift of being in a union. People realized what it feels like to not be alone in this job. They got to see the camaraderie that we only hear about because everyone showed up to a picket line. Everyone got their picture with a t-shirt on. Everyone did a thing. I hope that we all remember that later because it's important and we tend to forget about these things very quickly.
Yeah.
And the strikes were just one of the many linchpins that were pulled out of the grenade of blowing up the biggest streaming TV filming epicness that was like leading up to 2019, 2020, 2021. So now we're in a time of we're still kind of course correcting. Business is different. We're being paid differently. We did a lot of great things in that strike, and we had to make a lot of compromises because that's what negotiations are.
Yeah.
I think that we did the best we could possibly have done when we're up against the people who make the most money in the world. If you think about it, like Jeff Bezos has stake in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Just
Apple has stake in this. Yeah, and they have stake to be able to pay us how they want and to be able to have our likeness for AI and things like that that save them money. So we did our goddamnedest, and we're doing it right now again with the commercials contract, which is very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we are still suffering the repercussions of the business changing, not just the strikes. Being out of it now for a second, my career has not, there's been no bounce back. This year has had such limited auditions, and I'm watching other actors in the same boat. And so we're all kind of figuring out what that means, how we make money to be potential local hires in other markets, which I'm happy to talk about, how we keep ourselves in this business long term, because the short term success of I'm going to come to LA and be a movie star, I just don't think is viable. Not that it ever was before, but especially right now, because companies are investing money on people who are worth money. And to be worth money, you need to be easily recognizable. And most of us aren't. So what do we do in the meantime? How do we protect ourselves and stay in the game and be artists? And that's what I'm using a lot of my time to figure out right now.
Yeah. So you said about talking about how we can keep ourselves employed and alongside of that, keep ourselves in the game. Yeah. How do we do that?
I think you have to have other income streams. I think you have to have other things other than your art. Because first of all, if you've ever been on a big set, it mostly doesn't feel like art. Very few days feel like magic.
Yeah.
Very few days. And I see you shaking your head. And yeah, it's true. Like when you're there, there is a bunch of other people who are at their 9 to 5 and they're trying to get the job done and they're trying to get the shot and the sun's setting and they don't have the proper lights to do it without that. And we have to get the day in before the network sees the dailies. And so we got to get in and we only have this actor for one more day. So we got to shoot out the main. And then before you know it, you're talking to a tennis ball who's supposed to be like somebody famous and they had to wrap for set because they have to come back tomorrow in a 12-hour turnaround.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily artistful. So one, I think you have to find other ways to be an artist. Does that mean making your own stuff? I don't know. I don't think every actor should have to be a writer, director, cinematographer. I don't think we're all good at those things. But but maybe that means like right now I'm working on a play. I haven't done a play in 14 years.
Wow.
But I feel more artistic than I have in a long time. Yeah. And I'm really excited about what it's doing for me internally, not about the outcome, but about the process. And I'm trying so hard to stay in that. Finding ways to do your art and then finding ways to make money that complement your life and don't eat you alive. Because all of the previous side jobs I had until now were little gig jobs. So nannying, or I was a meal prep chef for a while, or event work or things like that, which were fine. But to me, and this is not true for everyone, but to me, they all had a time clock on them of how long can I be a nanny? When I turn 40, do I want to still be a nanny? And can I keep up this schedule? Can I make more money doing this same job? Is it scalable? Is it time according? Is there a clock on it in which it feels like the pressure then goes to my acting career? And to me, it was no longer viable to do those jobs long term and still be able to be in the game, still be able to pursue this job, meaning take meetings, watch shows, stay on top of my stuff, have conversations with people like you, to do interviews, to support my own income streams. So I moved to my own side businesses.
Mm.
So that process was not easy. I'm not going to say it took a day, but I think that having your own streams of income is what will insulate you to stay in this career long enough to achieve things.
Mm.
And I'm proof of that. It took me so long to book my first co-star, and then it took me so long to book my second. And the total payment of those was about $2,000 after taxes.
Oof.
And $2,000 isn't even my rent.
Yeah.
So that's not viable. But I want to play this game. I want to stay here and I want to do this thing. And
Sure.
if I'm going to do that, I have to make my own money. So I invite actors to look at streams of income as the investment in their career and not, oh, my dog's in the park for a second. Come here.
Hey,
Come here.
buddy.
Come here. Trudy. Trudy. Hey, Trudy. Come here. Come here. This is how we win this game. Trudy. Trudy. Come here. Find it. Thank you. Come here. You can have this. Here. Will. Hey. Solovino.
Yeah, small cameo appearance.
Yeah, small cat. Stay where you are, kid. Um, so no, I am solo. Hush, please. We'll see if that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I invite actors to instead think of their side jobs as the thing that fuels their job. I'm sorry. I invite actors instead to think of their side jobs as not just like a little bit of cash here and there, but as long-term income streams.
Sure.
And I believe so heavily in this that myself and my friend Gabrielle made a class called Side Hustle Academy, where we teach actors how to build side businesses while being an actor. Because I've taken several entrepreneurial classes and they were not really in line with what an actor career looks like. And they didn't really take into account how much of our time is spent in dealing with being an artist at the same time, and how much of our mentality is disrupted by the idea of also running our businesses and building and money and things like that that we weren't taught to value in a capitalistic society in which that's the currency.
Yeah.
So we deal with all of those things in that class because we had to. And so I want other actors to feel that and to get that. And so, yeah, finding a way to do your art and finding a way to supply it with income, because we do live in this world. I think that's the things that are missing from our current education. And that would be my recommendation to actors right now.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, it's true. They don't teach you these things in school, yet they really should.
Oh,
I mean, we're missing a big chunk of what life is all about, and life isn't all quantum physics or this is how an atom works. This is how bonds
yes.
form together. It's like I did chemistry in secondary school, as you say, or as you guys say, high school in America. It's like,
Yes.
it's like I did chemistry in high school. Have I used it since I left school? No. It's like I don't
No.
need it. Don't need it.
No. But you've
Yeah.
probably paid taxes.
Yeah, I paid taxes. I didn't know anything about that, but for somehow my money
Yeah.
just
But you
disappeared.
did it.
Yeah,
Yep. Every year.
exactly. Speaking of like that sort of thing, there's a story which you shared on your again on your show about the in-person Netflix callback you had in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to get this story in because of, actors watching this, we've paid a lot of money to go for in-person auditions, train like here in the UK, it'd be a train fare or maybe a hotel room for the night because you've traveled a long way. But in America, your country is so vast; it's a hell of a lot bigger than ours. So tell me about your in-person callback in Atlanta. Tell me that story.
Yeah. So a lot of our business, like I said, has moved outside of the big cities. It's not all based in at Los Angeles and New York anymore. It is all over the country. And this is another gift of having a job that is entirely based on my income being earned online, earned from my side jobs, all of these things,
Mm,
is that I can go where the job is.
mm,
Now, ideally, in a perfect scenario, that wouldn't be something I have to do. Ideally, local hire would only exist in the world of I live here, this is where I audition, period. that's not the world we live in anymore, unfortunately.
Mm.
And if you have a place to live and you have the ability to come and go freely, and I mean real freely, because it is pricey and expensive and unguaranteed, that's the world I have to live in right now. So I have an agent who submits me in Atlanta right now. I'm looking for a full Atlanta agent as well because they do a ton of work in the Southwest. And I have the means and the mode and the place and everything in Atlanta to be a local hire. I have an address, I own a business there, I have everything to go, and I can buy a plane ticket tonight and be there in the morning.
Mm.
LA to Atlanta is a huge hub. There is red eyes every single night. There's planes every single morning. It's a 5-hour flight roughly.
Yeah.
So it's not easy at all, but that is a place that I am a local hire. So
Wow.
did I dream of this being my job as an actor? I was going to have to move to Los Angeles, but fly to the Southeast? No. But this is the world we live in, and this is where I'm at with my work and my credits. So my agent submitted me for an audition last year in Atlanta. It was the first one I went out on there, and I auditioned as a local hire, saying I have an address in Atlanta. I ended up getting a call back, but for some reason, and this is not typical for them or this show even, because I got a lot of insider information about this show, the callback was in person. So they said, you're going to have an in-person callback. It's going to be sometime next week. And I said, okay. So that Sunday, I got on a plane, not waiting for my agent to tell me when the callback was, not waiting for any further information. And I got on a plane, and on Monday, she said, hey, your callback's on Thursday. I said, great. I just landed in Atlanta.
Wow.
Because I think the fear of a lot of casting directors, producers, anybody who, when an actor is willing to say, hey, I'm a local hire, is that they're going to say, okay, we trust you to be here. Maybe tomorrow, don't know. And most actors don't have the ability to do that. And I completely understand that it's such a privilege. But I did, and I do. So I did. So I did it. So I flew down there. Gabrielle, who I work online with, one of my best friends, she has a spare bedroom. We own a business together. We have an address there. So I went and stayed with her for a week. It was a great week. I did a ton of work. We got a bunch of stuff done for our business, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. And I went to the callback. It was great. I had a great time. Callback was about 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Of a 5-day trip. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't know if I was going to book the role or not. So then I had to wait to book my flight home.
Oh my
God. And I made a whole YouTube about this because I want people to be aware of, it sounds so fun to say, I'm willing to fly anywhere to be an actor. I'm willing to do anything. I'm willing to do it all. But when you get down to the brass tacks of it, for most people, this is not going to make financial sense. I spent over $1,000 to do this, and I didn't even pay to stay there. I had my accommodations taken care of. So all things considered, I spent money to audition. Mm. And the point of having a union and having the rights of an actor and all these things is that you shouldn't be spending money to audition.
No.
That's where you should be. But logistically speaking, if I'm going to be quite honest, that's not what the business looks like at this moment in time for me personally. I would not speak on everyone because everyone's circumstances are different, but that's where I'm at. And so I did it, and I talked very openly about it and how much it cost. And I didn't technically, quote unquote, get anything out of it because I didn't book. The casting directors were like, we think you're awesome. You're here. And I said, yep. And they said, okay, we'll definitely call you back. It's been a year. I haven't seen them since then. That's fine. That's how this works. Who's to say that they had a project that was right for me, right? Like, who's to say? Mm. I don't think they didn't waste their time with calling me back. So obviously something was a fit. I saw him book the role. It's a completely different human than me. Not even remotely similar. So whatever. Like I made it work. But this is not what I pictured it being when I said I was going to be an actor and I could go anywhere. So I say that tale with like caution because I don't want actors to say, I can be a local hire anywhere. And then they get a call that says, great, can you come to here and audition here, XYZ, whatever state it is. And they spend money taking off work, which most people would have had to do. I didn't have to do that. They spend money in the travel. They spend money in the accommodations, in the actual where they go from where the audition is,
Yeah.
etc. Maybe where the job is. And then a lot of times these jobs aren't guaranteed to make it to air. You're not guaranteed the actual shoot dates you're given because they might have to move them around for various reasons.
Mm.
And you're not even guaranteed to quote unquote like walk away with anything from it.
Mm.
So this to me ended up being a great thing for work, for the job I have as a YouTuber, as a podcaster, as a content creator. That was really useful. But if that wasn't a part of my job, I don't think I would tell people to do this because it was very costly and very inefficient.
Yeah. And very tiring as well, I would imagine. All that traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then to sit around and wait to find out if you didn't book something. Typically you don't get told it's not you. You
Mm.
just wait until the shoot dates come and go, and then you're like, okay, it's not me. Like
Yeah.
you're not typically told that. Because this was a circumstance, my agent reached out and specifically asked casting, hey, do you need her on set next week? And they were like, no, we're good, thank you. And so she was like, you can fly home. So I flew.
I mean, just a little courtesy call would have been nice. Just like, yes.
Yeah, I had, but they work so fast, like they don't have time, or else they would have to call like 100 actors they
Yeah,
auditioned, or
that is
10 they had callbacks for, or whatever. And then if they had to call all those agents would follow up and say, okay, great, can you give us some feedback as to why it's not her? And the answer most of the time is like, it's just not her.
yeah.
Like it's just not the fit. It's like, why was Walton Goggins the best actor for that role in The White Lotus?
Mm.
Well, one, he's famous, but two, because he just
helps.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps. But like he just was. Like
Yeah.
he was the role. Why was Amy Lou Reed his girlfriend Chelsea? Because she was. He was that role.
Mm.
And if I auditioned for it, they'd probably be like, she was great. It's just not it.
Yeah.
So sometimes they really can't put into words what it is,
Yeah.
nor do they owe that to any of us necessarily.
Yeah. So it reminds me of like when the late great Heath Ledger got the Joker. I remember when it was announced, everyone was like, Heath Ledger's the Joker. I mean, what are they thinking? What are they? This guy isn't the Joker, and it's one of the greatest performances of all time. That in the Dark Knight,
He was incredible.
He's just, and sadly taken from us far too soon. But he's left one hell of a legacy.
By the way,
Yeah.
this is part of the reason I don't want actors to align themselves too closely with their job.
Mm.
Is because I know far too many actors whose mental health is dependent on the roles they're in.
Mm.
And that is part of the reason I want them to have a big life outside of their acting career. I know nothing about Heath Ledger's mental health. I know nothing about his family situation. And if he had any other extraneous factors, I have no idea. So I will not speak on that. But I know a lot of actors who define themselves by their job or the next character they're playing. And I think that the things like you just have to call a spade, like suicide rate and things like that among artists who fall too deep into a role or who are done with something and they don't know what's coming next, and they fall into like depression, even not even just like necessarily suicidal thoughts, but depression. You have to have other things outside of this. You have to have other people to lean on and other things to do, because this cannot be your whole world. I don't want to live in the Joker's world. I don't want to live in that world.
No.
Not a chance. Not good.
No chance. I heard stories. Again, I don't know about Heath Ledger's thing, but it's a story I heard that he. I mean, it's quite well documented now. I think I can say this, but yeah, he had a little diary or journal which he filled with like lots of images. Like I think he watched like Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick film, and all that kind of stuff. Had a lot of things there that kept him in this world. And don't get me wrong, it worked, because you saw the Joker, you saw him. You didn't see Heath Ledger, but yeah, that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that's a good point you make there. It's like, what's the cost of big performances? Hi, doggy. Sounds got a dog on the podcast. But yeah, no, it's it's a tricky thing. But yeah, oh god, we could talk about that for ages, couldn't we? I'm just very aware of the time, Sam, because I know you've got another meeting to shoot off to in just a little bit. But yeah, god, so many more things left for you. God, we could talk for hours. But I'd love to have you on for another one at some point. I've got still so many more things. But which we'll just got, how many questions have I got? We'll finish with these three. We'll finish with these ones. So the first one is, the way you're looking at things now, so 2025, in which we're speaking right now, what would you say was the thing that what do you notice about the industry right now, or what do you see in actors right now that they wish they knew more of, which you feel is not being spoken about enough? Do you think, if that makes sense?
Mm, yeah, like what do I wish more actors were more versed on? I think the the ability to bounce back from things is very underappreciated.
Mm,
It's a grit. I'm trying to think of the right word I want to utilize here. It'll come to me as I'm talking.
yeah, yeah.
But resilience,
There
resilience,
it is.
resilience is what I wish that we spent more time on, and it's only really something I've learned as I've gotten older, as I've dealt with more life stuff. Uh, but the ability to take yourself out of the central character narrative and to bounce back from something is very underrated. And I think in most adult situations, it's key. It's so key to growing and learning as a person and not hanging on to things or to hate or to frustration. Resilience is key. And I think that is something you can't really teach, but we all should be trying to practice it in your
Mhm.
day to day life. Um, this one's not going to go over well.
Go for
Just
it.
because you're in an acting class doesn't mean that you're getting better as an actor.
Mm.
I think that we like to check a box and, okay, I did my scene. I acted today. Okay, great. What did you take away? What did you learn? And you can't always put it into words, but just because you did an actor thing
Mm.
doesn't necessarily mean you're actively pursuing your career. And would that money be better spent on your community, on private coaching, on saving and filming a movie because you've been dying to be on a set? Would it be like I love so many acting coaches I've had, and I love right now I'm in a school that I really enjoy, but I just don't think that being in class is necessarily always the answer. I
Yeah.
think there's so many different ways this could look like. And the loyalty of checking the actor box isn't always necessarily going to move the needle forward. And
Mm.
it's so nuanced. Like, Oliver, what you need is different than what I need, is different than what Gab needs, is different than what the actor I just interviewed on my podcast needs. Like, everyone has different needs, and we want so badly for there to be a blanket answer. If you take this class, you will be a great actor. If you film one more self tape, you will book. If you make this short film, you will get into 17 festivals and it will change your life. If you sign with this agent, you can no longer have to be worried about anything. And it's just not how anything works.
No,
It's
unfortunately not.
so it's so nuanced and so particular. You're going to make 1,000 decisions before you make one decision that makes everything great. And then that one great decision that made everything great will make everything not so great in 6 weeks. And you're going to have to make the decision again. Right. So
Mhm.
there's just no one blanket answer.
Yeah.
And I do a podcast for actors where I talk about my decisions and I talk to other people about their choices and their decisions and what helped them move the needle forward. And my goal is not to tell everyone that this is the thing, that one thing is the answer. My goal is to provide them with like a buffet of what would work for you. And maybe what works for you today will be different than what works for you in 6 months.
Yeah.
And there's just not one right answer.
Yeah. It's like follow your passions, of course, but remember there's more to it than just acting. There's more to it than trying to be. Of course, yeah, try and be the best actor you possibly can, and to be called a great actor is an amazing compliment, especially as what you love doing. But there's always more to it than that. You know, there is life as well. Enjoy the small things because they go a long way. And
Mhm.
yeah, but keep, by all means, keep at it, keep going. But know that, I'm a big believer. Like the universe has a plan for us all. I believe that. Things are meant to happen when they're meant to happen, and it might not happen as early as you want it to. But just you got to surrender and just have faith. But in the meantime, keep working hard, keep doing what you're doing, and for God's sake, just keep looking after yourself and,
Mm.
improving yourself in any way possible. That's something I've learned since I've left drama school, or theatre school, as you say in America. But yeah, no, God. I mean, anyway, Sam, we could be here for another 3 hours just talking about all this stuff. Right.
It probably doesn't help that I answer every question with like a 5 minute dialogue because I'm
No,
so
no,
used to
no.
podcasting. I'm like, let me fill your time.
Bring it all, Sam. I love it. It's great. Unfortunately, we are sort of pushed for time, so I've only got two more questions left for you, but there's more to
Okay.
come. Definitely more to come from us in the future, guys. But so the first one is, what would you say was, and I'm probably tying a lot of what we were talking about today. What would you say was a bit of advice you wish you heard when you were just starting out? So there's Sam, who's just arrived in LA for the first time. What would you say was something that you wish you heard in that moment?
Nobody's thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you.
Mm,
It sounds defeating, but it's actually very freeing.
mm,
And especially with social media, we get so focused on what is everyone else doing and what do they think of me and what I'm doing.
mm.
How have I not posted that I've been on set recently? Does everyone think I'm not acting anymore? What if everyone from college who said I would have never made it in LA thinks I really did never make it? Everyone is so inundated with their own shit. No one is thinking about you. And the gift of that is freedom and ability to do as you please and marinate and process and do your thing. And then the hard part about that is that this is a business where you need people to be thinking about you.
Yeah.
So, how do you cultivate that for yourself? And that doesn't mean you need to post your headshots on Instagram every day. Please don't do that. No one cares. Uh, but there's other ways to do it. There's other ways to go about being in the front of people's minds. It's not going to be every day. It's not going to be every week or month. But this business needs you to be thought of in various capacities. And you also need to find freedom on the days that you're not thought of.
Mm,
It's a hard balance.
yeah. But ultimately, just be grateful for the small things, and just there's, yeah, like I said, there's more to life than acting, but find that, yeah, just
Yeah.
find that balance.
I, and I'm not a toxic productivity, that too, but I'm not a toxic positive person. Like,
Sure.
acknowledge that sometimes this shit blows. Sometimes this job is so annoying and frustrating, and you can get everything you thought you wanted, and then it's not actually what you thought you wanted. You can book something, and it turns out it's like kind of mediocre at best, or you get cut out, or, nobody, you share it on social media and no one cares. Like, it's, it's just, there is some bullshit, and acknowledge the bullshit. I don't love that this business is based on money. It'd be cool if it was based on art, but it's not. This is
Mm.
2025 and I live in America and I am well aware that money runs this show. And
Yeah,
so if I'm willing to play that game, I have to find myself and I have to find freedom in other ways. But I have to validate that it fucking sucks sometimes.
yeah, yeah. But it's just being aware of that. That's the important thing, and to know that, yeah,
Mm.
things always have a way of working out no matter what. But keep at it in the meantime. And finally, today, Sam, what would you say was an experience or experiences you've had in your career up to now that you'll never ever forget?
Ooh. Oh, that's such a good question. Oh, I want to tell you something really profound, but why can't I think of something right now?
It'll come. It'll come to you.
I remember exactly when I wanted to go union. I remember that moment. I remember so clearly. I was filming an indie movie in, I think it was Nebraska.
Yeah.
And we had had multiple days in a row of 14, 16 hours of filming. We were all living in the same house while we were filming. And the place that we filmed, everyone was just doing their best to get by and get this movie made. But the place that we were filming, there was no bathroom.
Oh.
And it was very limited. I mean, there was like 4 or 5 of us total between the actors who were in it and the crew. Very limited. Everyone was just doing the best they could. And I remember there was one scene where they just had me do it over and over and over and over and over again. And I was like, what is the point? And the director was a student director and he was trying so hard. He was like, I really wanted you to get frustrated so you do that scene differently. And I was like, wow, if you would have just said, I would like to see how frustrated you could be in this scene, I could have saved you about 45 minutes of time. Okay, great. Good to know. And so we were all at our wits' end. Every member of every producing, directing, actor, everyone was just so over it. And I remember sitting in this truck, and for like the sixth time, we had to jump out of this truck and do this running scene. And they were like, pretend there's something you want really bad at the end of that road and just like run for it. And I was so over it at this point. And I looked at the actor next to me and I go, you know what's at the end of that road? And he goes, what? And I go, it's our STAG cards. We were both like, yeah, no more days without pay, no more bullshit, no more places without bathrooms. And we got out of that car and we ran for our fucking lives. And I was like, I want to feel taken care of on set. I want to feel protected. I want to feel safe. And I want to do my best job with the best possible people. And I remember I was like, I can't wait to join the union so that I can do that and not do this anymore. And actually think every member of that project is now union. So that's really cool. But that was a very big moment that lives in my head. And now I've been a union actor since 2016.
Yep.
Very, very proud of that. And 3 years ago, I earned my SAG healthcare for the first time after being in the union for years. So very proud of my actor union. And that's a moment that will always stick with me.
Yeah. I mean, was that the take that they used? Was that the take in the final cut?
I don't even think that scene made it into the movie. I don't even think we used it. I think that whole section of the movie was scrapped for time.
Oh, no.
For sure. It's okay.
Oh,
it needed a trim.
Yeah, well, I hope there's a copy of it in a vault somewhere that we could just see like your reaction as you're on the sixth or seventh take. I think you said it was. You see you coming out of that van, and we could just see in your face having had this conversation now. No more shit days. No more no pay.
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here, and then you just like see that joy in your face, man. Oh. If anyone does have access to that, let's try and get this out there. Let's try and get it on Instagram. But we'll find the blooper reel, as you said earlier, of just like you enjoying it, enjoying that thing. Yeah. Seriously, if any of Sam's followers listening to this can find that, let's get it out there, man. Let's get it out there. We'll try and find it. It'll be like a One Broke Actress exclusive. But yeah,
little baby Sam.
Yeah. We'll keep it going. Sam, I know you've got another meeting to shoot on to now, so unfortunately we have to end there. But seriously, thank you so much for your time today. This has been amazing. And still, like I say, still so many more things. Love to have you back. And we'll continue this discussion in the future. But yeah, no, this has been amazing. And guys, go check out her podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get it. Check out her YouTube stuff and everything is all down below the description. Her website, go check it all out. It's brilliant. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast. I'll be back very, very soon. And yeah, Sam Valentine, thank you so much.
Thanks, Oliver.